that you are not alone. It spoke to things like mutual aid and support. But more importantly, it says that you might have a load that you can't carry and they're just right up the road, and if you just call me, I'll share the load. He said, call on me, brother, when you need a friend, when you need somebody to lean on. You just might have a problem that I'll understand. We're at this point now where this is a collective call to action. And the first thing we're asking you to do is to lean on one another. Lean on one another in this time, because at this point in time, we are the support for one another. We are who we need in this present moment and in the future. We are who we need to help carry the load. We are the person who's right up the road, and we are the one who understands the problem that you may bring. So as they just kept saying at the end, and I hope that you were just able to breathe that in, he said, call me, call me, call me, call me. I'd like to say welcome to everyone today for joining our Petrochemical Lunch and Learn. My name is Bishop Marcia Dinkins. I am the founder and executive director of the Black Appalachian Coalition and Black Women for Change. And I also serve as a part-time director with Ohioans for Sustainable Change. I'm so grateful to be here with all of you as we reflect on the past 9 months. Has it been 9 months, everybody? Of this incredible series, and dive into today's important conversation and the impact of petrochemicals on our health and our environment. This series has collaborated between Black, the Ohio River Valley Institute, and passionate leaders like Dr. Patricia DeMarco. Together, we've explored the devastating consequences of fossil fuels, and more importantly, the strategies that frontline communities can use to fight back, organize, and succeed. Write those words down: fight back, organize, and succeed. Our goal today is a clear call to action. We are here to address the threats from fossil fuels impacting our health and our environment, to create actionable strategies that empower frontline communities, and share our successes and stories to inspire and guide the path forward. Again, I want to thank each of you for personally joining us today and throughout this journey. Your commitment to learning and taking action inspires me. As we prepare to begin, I am so honored to introduce Dr. Patricia DeMarco, an extraordinary environmentalist, author, and advocate dedicated to advancing sustainability and justice. I'd like to add at the end, and a dear friend. Her insights will guide us collectively as we reflect on our work and the road ahead. Help me by just showing your heart emojis. Welcome, Dr. Patricia DeMarco. Patty.
Oh, thank you. You are so kind, always so kind, and you have such a great heart. And it's such a wonderful team that we've had on this journey. And I think our team includes the people who've come again and again together to talk about these sometimes difficult things that we've been discussing. And to know that we are not alone, I think, is the biggest gift we give each other all the time. Next slide, Ben. So I wanted to just reiterate that in spite of what we've heard through this last campaign, climate warming is real. The atmospheric carbon dioxide is higher than it's been in any of our lifetimes. It has been the warmest year on record, and we now have about half of the country experiencing some form of drought, which has had a tremendous effect on food prices, because the agricultural productivity during drought times is much suppressed. And that has had an effect not only on our own local food supply, but also the national and global supply chains for food have been disrupted by drought and water shortages around the world. And we've had storm frequency, severity, and cost really increasing. We have had $24 billion storms in just 2024 alone. That has not been just covered by insurance and FEMA. It has affected local government budgets. It has affected individual budgets. It has caused tragedy across the country. And this is something we have to face as reality. And also the wildfires have had a tremendous cost on all of us. And the root cause of all of this is continuing to burn fossil fuels. So we need to recognize that reality as we're looking at where we go from here. Next slide, please, Ben. We've covered a lot of ground. As I was looking at a way to put all of this in one slide, I am not going to go over all this data that we've collected. The 2023 series has been translated into infographics and information in both Spanish and English. And we've had 8 sessions so far of content around the impact on health and environment, because this is where it hits people most personally and most individually all across the country. None of us escape these kinds of effects, and we've had a lot of information conveyed, and this is available through the Black Appalachia Coalition website and also on Orvie. It's also on my website. But this material will become the basis for our work going forward for quite a long time. And I have to thank all of you for putting it in here. Some of the things that have come together as common understandings out of all of this work is that health is a human right for all people. Health isn't something that should be limited to those who can afford expensive, high-quality insurance. Health is a human right. It's in the Constitution of some of our states, but we need to make sure this is a priority for everyone, everywhere. And in order to have healthy people, you need a healthy environment. The air we breathe, the water we drink, the food we eat has an influence on our ability to have a healthy, fulfilling life. And pollution from burning fossil fuels especially harms the environment, and it harms the health of individual people, especially in frontline communities, where they are disadvantaged by having those facilities affecting their life on a daily basis in much more concentrated ways than may be true across the country as a whole. And we've come to recognize that the polluters are not held accountable for the harm that they cause. We find again and again communities sharing their stories of having trouble getting accountability from the people who are causing the harm. Next slide, please. I think it's important to recognize that the frontline communities are many of us. They matter. I think some of the most moving parts of the work we've done this last year particularly has been listening to the shared experiences and the stories of people. This is happening. 39 million people live within a mile of petrochemical facilities. That's a lot of the population. And health harms like asthma, maternal mortality, cancers, endocrine disruption, they're more common in the frontline communities. And pollution is part of the systemic failure to protect vulnerable people. So many times we prioritize jobs and the economic value of an instant application of some industry without thinking about the effect that it has and counting that into the cost and counting that into the obligation. We need to give voice to these injustices. Climate change doesn't affect people or all places uniformly, which is one of the difficulties. The top 10% of pollution comes from, the top 49% of the pollution comes from 10% of the countries, including ours. And the poorest 50% of the countries are only accounting for 10% of the pollution. So we need to look at how the responsibility for climate change rests on those who are using the fossil fuels the most. We have the biggest obligation to shift away from them. It is a responsibility of all of us, but those who cause the emissions the most have also the responsibility to take charge of addressing those harms. Environmental justice priorities of the last 4 years are likely to be reduced in the coming administration, if not eliminated, but it doesn't alleviate the existence of those injustices, and we need to keep them in the front of mind and give voice to them, not only in our country, but in other countries as well. Next slide, please. We need to move from the awareness that we've created into an action agenda. 73% of Americans, according to the latest Pew Research, believe that the government isn't doing enough on climate change. We didn't hear about this during the campaign. Nobody talked about it. Nobody elevated this to a level of public debate. We can't let them get away with this again. The resilience of our communities, the viability of our communities depends on addressing these problems. We need to seek allies, both within our own towns and also across the country, who believe that sacrifice zones are not okay in America. We have to believe that racial health disparities are not okay in America. And we have to believe that the wealth gap is not okay in America. We need to begin addressing these root problems and finding solutions that will help solve the root causes that we're facing across the country, but especially in communities that have the least ability to stand up and fight. Next. So we need to make America care again. We have to see the problems of poverty among children and poverty among communities. We have 14 million children live in food insecure homes, trying to go to school and get an education and coming to school hungry, going home hungry. This is not okay. 131 million Americans, 39% of the population, live in areas where they have unhealthy levels of pollution. And we've had a war on poverty for 50 years, but it hasn't solved the institutional racism, some of it enshrined in zoning codes from back in the 20s, some of it enshrined in just the way communities have developed and the way industrial policy has expanded in various places. Next slide, please. We can organize. Alone we are powerless, but together we're strong. We have to give voice and visibility to the harms of the fossil extractive industries that we've experienced. And we have to emphasize the alternatives that give good paying union jobs in a clean economy and make those part of our pattern of growth and resilience and of building a better future for everybody, a shared prosperity where we can all participate in the American dream in a real way, not in just the top 10% and the bottom 80 becoming less and less powerful. Next. We have to practice active citizenship. We are a democratic republic. It's supposed to be a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. If we believe this, then we, the people, have to reach out to each other to make sure that our government is responding to our needs. We have to articulate the real needs of our communities, the things that we see every day that they tend to want to sweep under the carpet. And we have to build leaders and lift up the voices of leaders from among us who actually care about the public interest and are willing to fight for it. And that is all of us together. We have the job of growing the leadership for the next time around. Next. So we need to write a new story. And the last time we were together, we talked about what gives us hope. And at the center of that is community. Community, where we are looking at our interdependence, at our multiple abilities to share our talents with each other. Liberty and justice for all can be a reality if we work together. We have to call out the misinformation and distortion and give a true story of what's going on. We have to lift up the stories of our trauma, but also of our triumph, of our successes, and share those and make sure that they're in the narrative of where we want to go from here. And most of all, we have to care for each other and listen to each other as friends and fellow creatures of this one earth. If we protect each other and protect the earth that supports us, we will get through this and we will have a better future, a finer future, and one that can be sustained for the next generation. I think I end there. Next slide. Yeah, good. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'll turn it back to you, Marcia.
Thank you so much. I'm trying to get on camera. So much for that, Patty. And so what we like to do today, I know a lot of times we have not had the opportunity to have discussion around what is our next. One of the things that we're thinking about with Black and building our platform over the next 4 years or these years to come is what is our future story? And so when we think about our future story, and if you attended the post-election meeting, the future story is what do we envision together? How do we, what do we envision the way that we want to live? What do we should never lose sight of our imagination or what it is we want to see for where we live. We want to make sure that we still have the right to put food on the table, the right and access to healthcare. So today we just like to have an open discussion, on what are some of the things that you see? What are some of the things that are important to you? And what are some of the steps that you believe we can take collectively as we look toward this upcoming year, not with fear, but with hope, not with despair, but with determination. And so this is just opening it up. What are you seeing and how would you like to move together? Because like he said, we all need one another and we all need somebody to lean on. You can raise your hand or put your comment in the chat. And I can't see anybody, so if we could get some help there, Ben, it would be great.
Sure.
So we don't have anybody. So one of the questions, go ahead.
Yeah, no hands yet.
Okay. So one of the questions I'd like to ask is, how has this helped you? And do you think that this can help you in your work moving forward? No one? Come on, everybody. We have to have a vision for what it is we want. Otherwise, they tell us what we want.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. This is Jermaine from, I'm in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Women for a Healthy Environment and Valley Clean Air Now, are the organizations that I am attached to. So I just, something that tugged on my heart, and I just need to say it. So, after the election, a lot of people were feeling low, gloom and gloom. And personally, I don't think that we should feel that way. Because I think we all need to take accountability for what we can do as individuals, no matter what happens, within your household, within your community and beyond. Because that's where it really starts. We can say that, it's policies, it's this and that. But we really have to look at our surroundings, right? Like where we're at, where we live at. And just ask ourselves, what is it that I can do within my community? Sharing, looking out for our neighbors. There's just little things that can build up into greater, larger things. And we just need to make a difference, within our own core communities, within our own core. And that's how I see it. No matter who you voted for, to me, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. We can say it does on some level, but I think if it really starts from home and then just spreads in that way, that's where real change begins.
If I were in church, Tremaine, I'd say amen to that. One of the most powerful things that we have, and I see you, Dr. Pressey, is what Jermaine mentioned, is community organizing, and how do we organize our communities, organize our voices together to build that collective change. It doesn't have to be, it can be 3 blocks at a time, 5 blocks at a time, a 1 mile radius. But the whole point is we have to get back to the places that we have not been in a long time. And that's really in community with the community. A lot of us don't know our neighbors. He talked in the song about mutual aid. Ask me for what you need. There was a time where, the way that we face some of our challenges and issues was you knocked on somebody's door, not to ask them about the vote, but you needed eggs. You needed milk. And we know how to be sustainable. We know how to we know how to look out for one another. We know how to care. We know how to build caring communities. This is nothing new for us. What it is for me is a call to action to get back in those places while also looking at what does it look like, not only today, but tomorrow. What does it look like? What are the ways that we can come together and outthink all of the shenanigans that's going on to rethink and repurpose and reframe what it is we want and need, be it reframing our trauma, reframing our stories, reframing our narratives. It is a collective call to action, not only from one neighbor to another neighbor, but as you're building, then it goes from one city to another city, from one state to another state, from one county to another county. We build traction, we build power, and we build voice and visibility, and we build for change. Dr. Pressey, I'm going to turn it over to you. The mic is yours. If you're talking, you're on mute, Dr. Pressey.
Okay. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure being here this morning. You know, since our last conversation on the pre-election, I have been on a number of calls, and I want to say that it is in this space that we have received some clarity of where we should be going. And as I think about where we're going in the future, I think I have to take a look at my experience and how far I have come in my life in struggle. And Angela Davis said it very distinctively in one of her books that she wrote. Our struggle is always a continuum. So this should not be the first or the last time that we're in a struggle. And I just found, I went back to another book that I often go back and read whenever I find myself being very perplexed about something. And the title of the book is Hope in Darkness. There's always hope in darkness. As Dr. King once said, it's only when it's dark that you can look up and see the stars. And the only way that we can look up and see the stars in where we are today in our community is, one, we don't lose our hope nor our way. If we have direction of where we're going and how we want to get there, we can't lose hope. We got to keep our way. Secondly, we cannot shrink back while we sit in the reality of where we are. So that leads me to the third position of where we need to be is we don't disengage. We have to continue to be engaged in the work that we've already started. And then we have to continue, regardless of what your faith is, you have to have faith in your God or your higher power. You got to continue to trust God. And you have to have more faith than fear. And I think I've been on a number of calls in the last week where I've heard a lot of conversation around fear of losing money, fear of not being able to find equity, because one of the executive orders that we've been working on is the Justice for All, the Justice 40 initiative. That is supposed to provide an opportunity for equity for the disadvantaged communities. And a lot of people have been saying, okay, soon as the new president come in, the first thing that is going to happen, he's going to repeal every executive order. And we know that's going to happen. But just because that executive order goes away, it doesn't mean that we lose our way and continue to fight for what we have a conviction for. And then 6, we have to, this is the hardest thing for me. We have to show love to everyone, even if they disagree with us. And we're going to find some disagreements and conversations coming up over the next year or the next 4 years. But how do we ourselves maintain a lovable spirit in the work that we're doing, that we don't become bitter and angry even at people that are at odds with us. And then we just got to make sure that we have the right convictions in our community, despite who's in the White House, despite who's in the State House, in spite of who's in your local community legislative body. We got to make sure that that we have community at the heart of what we're doing. And I think if we do that, I think what happens, it gives us that self-centeredness to make sure that we understand history, we understand where we are, and because we understand where we are, we can still have hope in darkness and see a brighter day. Because I'm looking for the stars, and I can't see the stars in daylight. I can only see the stars when it is pitch dark at night. And anybody from the South, when it's dark at night, it looked like you could just reach up and grab one of those stars. And that's what we got to do. We got to keep grabbing for the stars that's going to keep us in the right path and in the right direction of where we need to go. So that's where I think we need to be. Thank you so much for allowing me to share what's on my heart.
No, thank you so much. Yeah, that's powerful. And hope in the darkness, or hope in darkness. And you made me think about one thing, and we want to monitor the chat too, because I know that there are voices there. But one thing that I thought about, Dr. Pressey, is when we plant seeds, we don't plant them above ground. We plant them underground, and they've got to go deep underground. And it is in the darkness that the seed can do what it needs to do. It is in the darkness that the seed can break open. It is in the darkness that once that seed breaks open, the roots come out. And what we see is what we planted in the darkness has to take time to be able to break through and to take root. But the reminder is that when it's finished its process, then we begin to see the manifestation of what we planted. And so I thank you for that, because as Nita J put here, the seed holds all the information, and each one of us is a seed that's holding the information that we need to work together to help one another. I really encourage each and every one of us, don't put yourself in a state of perpetual mobilization. This is not a whack-a-mole moment, even though we feel like we want to whack somebody, we know who, but it is designed to keep us desperate.
Yes.
It is designed to keep us in despair. It is designed to keep us in a mindset of defeat. And it is designed to be death by, as we used to say, by 1,000 budget cuts. It is designed for that. And so when we understand that a system is doing whatever, the system is doing what it has been doing since the system has been in place, then that gives us an opportunity to think about the seed or the systems that we are. Because we are a system all by ourselves. We are a family system. Our environment is a system. And so we can look at the federal, and that's fine. But this is a clarion call to action for us to get hyper local. What boards and commissions can you sit on? Well, some cities have that. Do you have precinct reps like they do in Warren, Ohio? You run precinct reps, and we did that to shift the power dynamic. We want to look at the midterm. How do we shift the power there? How do we build a collective voice around civic engagement? Because all of these things that happen, they're just stops along the journey. It is never the final destination. You have to, and we have to understand that the purpose of stopping is to rest and to reset, to revive and to rethink and to strategize. So I hope that in what we're doing together, and I truly hope we do this together, because each one of us has something to bring. If you're working on a water issue, if you are working on air quality, if you are working on decarbonization, if you are working on fossil fuels, environmental justice, racial justice, economic justice, this is an ecosystem that tells a full story. And they have succeeded in keeping us separate because of the political pockets. Now we have an opportunity to say, we understand who we are and the power that we bring. And we have an opportunity to build a collective voice. And we do this through coalition building. We do it through supporting one another. We do it by joining, with others, by being a collaborator, a supporter, a co-sponsor, a leader. Know which position you take. Every lane is not everybody's lane to, be the driver. Some of us have to be in the back seat, but we're still getting to the same place. We're still seeing what's up, on the outside of the window. We're still breathing the same air. But this is an opportunity for us to really ask the question, what is our future vision? What is our future vision? And if your future vision is that you're able to breathe clean air and your grandchildren are able to breathe clean air, then how do we do that? If you want clean air, you want clean water. If you want clean air and water, you want clean communities, you want good food. We are not separate one of another. Think of this as a wrestling match. It's 50 different matches, but we're all, it's one thing that we're working on. It's one fight with 50 different rounds.
And Dr. Marcia, I have to call you doctor because that's what
That's
you're
right,
gonna
because
do.
I finished.
I'm see. Oh, you finished already?
I
Well,
defended on last Friday.
all right. Well, we always see the end at the beginning, and I think the other thing that Patty DeMarco reminded us of is all of the good work that has already been accomplished, and I also see what is taking place as the wheat and the tare. The wheat is the good works that we have already accomplished. And along with the good works that we have accomplished, it doesn't stop the weeds from coming in to try to stop what we've already accomplished. And so what we got to continue to remember, don't try to tear up and separate the wheat from the tare, because when you try to tear the tare from the wheat, you may be tearing up all of the foundations of the good works that we have already accomplished. And that's why we can never lose hope in the midst of a dark situation or in the struggles that we're going to face. Because guess what? If we keep doing what we're doing, the tear going to take care of itself. But the work that we're doing will overcome and far exceed the tear that is already among us. So just don't tear up all the good work that we're doing. We just got to continue with the good work in spite of the tear or the wheat or the weeds that's coming in, trying to destroy the good harvest that we've been trying to reap for a long time.
Thank you for that. I want to uplift Jenna Binder's voice. She said, one thing I struggle with is how to communicate through misinformation. People don't like to hear they're wrong or something they thought was truth isn't. Tactful communication to find the common ground on issues will be important in how we move forward. You are so right, Jenna. And she says, I think framing environmental concerns as health concerns is one key, which has been nicely done in this series. Thank you for that. And she is so right. We have to push past this misinformation and this disinformation, that we're going through, because again, it is all about the story. It is about the narrative. And it is going to require each of us to bring in our voice. We each have a story to tell. We each have, an experience that we've gone through. Thank you, Jermaine, for joining. We'll see you. I just want to encourage everyone, because today was just really about thinking through how we can work together. And while everyone has not spoken, I truly hope that this is something that you think about. Some of the next steps with Black, because I don't have to talk to be talking, and I don't have to keep you to be keeping you, even though I like each and every one of your company. But the next steps with this is our last Lunch and Learn for the year. What we are going to do from here is we are going to then begin a cohort of deeper training and deeper organizing training so that we are equipped. One of the things that I, when I was started my PhD was I was in public policy and social change, and I was in a class and we were reading this book called Deserving and Entitled. And it was tearing my heart up. And I was crying, and so many others, because it was talking about the Moynihan reports and so many ways in which, politicians have always had the same message. They've always had the same story. They just changed the title of the chapter. And we have to stick to, like what Dr. Pressey was saying, we can't let the things tear up the good work that we've done. We have a perpetual story. We have chapters, and that's how they've succeeded. And we have to at least take that out of the playbook. But what I told this professor was this, and I was in a class called Policy Paradox. And I said, thank you for giving me a double-edged sword. And she put this big smile on her face and she said, oh, you're welcome. I said, no, don't say that too fast. I said, because you gave me a double-edged sword, but it's dull on both ends. You didn't equip me. You just gave me a weapon where I couldn't do anything. And it was at that time that I swore that as in this organization and as a part of my life and pushing things forward, is that we would understand the policy paradox. We would understand the language of policy. We would understand how they build their policy, because these are things that we really don't know. They speak a language that we really don't pay attention to. And we have to be able to decipher and discern so that we can do just what Jenna said. We have to break up misinformation and disinformation. And we have to understand this election was not about politics. It was not. It was about economics. It was the fact that one person, whether it was true or not true, and we know that for the most part, it's not true, but people saw hope for their pocketbooks, for their families, for jobs. They saw hope because they wanted an economic system that was for them. And the truth is, where's all of that going to fall? In our communities, in our families, in the places where we go, where we live, where we work, where we eat. It's going to fall at our feet. Because when the truth comes out, it's devastating. Because things don't change, but we still get to inspire hope in spite of. And we have to remember, it is who is telling the story and how a values-based story is driven to a point where it's touching down. And this is what it's not about politics. This is about big business. And we have to understand and think about, what are the ways that we tear down big business? What are the ways that we have to fuel things economically? And look at how the economics of all of this is going to impact us. How do we build a tax system, or think about a tax system that helps us rather than taxing us into poverty? These are so many things that happen that we don't educate ourselves about. And it is no pun intended. I believe when I can acknowledge something, when I can reveal something, I can change something. And so at the end of the day, Black is committed to ensuring that you have a double-edged sword, but it will be sharpened, and it will cut through, and it will cut down, and it will cut out all of the things that we don't need in the places that we live, in our dreams, in our hopes, in our future, in our children, in our lives. We will be well equipped. Black is committed to that, to amplifying your story. If you have an environmental story and you've been harmed, let's hear it. Because the one thing about it is your story is your power. Another thing that you have that's your power is in the power of your hands is remembering. We want to forget to remember when we need to remember so we don't forget. Because in our remembering, there's so much wisdom and currency in it. And I understand there's trauma, but we will also work together to reframe trauma, because flight can be your trauma response and flight can be your fight response. Because sometimes I just got to get out of there because I don't need this around me. We get to reframe this. And so the bottom line is, I hope that you continue to, work with us and to join us and reach out. And you know what? If it's something that you need from Black, please reach out and ask. It is not about being transactional with us. It is about being relational in a way that we understand that the art of organizing is about relationships. The art of organizing is that I get to know you as you get to know me. The art of organizing is understanding your story and how your story connects to my story so that we have a story that's building collective power and agency and voice so that we're speaking to change. Because storytelling can be a pivotal point of advocacy. It is your sword, your double-edged sword. And if we all stand side by side with our double-edged swords, think about how much we can cut down. I don't think there are any more hands. If there is, please call them out. Otherwise, I'll prepare to close us out. Okay. Well, were you getting ready to say something, Patty, before I close us out?
I just, my internet is unstable, but I just want to thank you for your leadership and your words and your encouragement, because we need to write a new narrative. We need to write a narrative that works for the 90% of the people who work for money and don't make money from their money or make money from other people's work. We need to get the people who actually do the work of our country be rewarded for their labor. And I've been looking at what brought down the Gilded Age, because I think we're in another one. And what brought down the Gilded Age was the unions and people standing in the street saying, we've had enough and you can't do this to us anymore. And maybe we need to be gearing up for that again. And the way you do that is by making people care about each other, care about our actual situation, and not take the nonsense that says the trickle down will happen. If we make the corporations richer, you guys are going to benefit. It hasn't worked for 60 years, never worked, never will. And I think we need to hold up that as a challenge, that it isn't okay for 10% of the country to get richer and richer and richer, and 80% of the country go down. Not fair, not right. And we need to address that and take it on head on and use the tools that we have. We have our voices, we have our communities, we have the ability to stand up in our local government meetings and make sure people are accountable for what a business going on in your town. You've got to go there and say, we're tired of this pollution. Don't just pay the fine and let them keep doing that. We're done. We're done getting poisoned with this air. You know, you have to show up and we have to make those voices count. And we are here for each other to learn how to do that, to be effective at it, and to do it again and again until we're done. Because we cannot sit here and let it go backwards, and we can't sit and stay the way it has been. This disparity in who gets to get ahead has got to be addressed, or America will come apart. So a shared prosperity that's real for all of us is the goal that I have in my heart. And I know you don't get there with
We lost her. I'll see if she comes in and we'll see what happens. I'll give it a second. Let me see if there's anybody that we just need to honor in the chat.
Sister
This is
Marcia,
Gwen.
Hey, Gwen, come on. How are you?
I'm doing good. What I wanted to say is that we as Black people are resilient. This is nothing new for us. Our ancestors came from slaves. We are workers, we are strugglers, we are resilient. We fight through every situation. But one thing we don't do, we don't never give up. I don't care who's in that White House, like someone has said. This is a time for us to go back to our roots, as far as like the Archbishop and the other lady has said, as far as talking to the people in the community. This is a time for us to organize. Organize like we never organized before. Give people hope. Let people know that you care and we could care about one another. Let people know that we need to vote. We need to let our voices be heard. We need to turn around and just start marching and just start talking and having rallies and just continue to organize to let people know that we have hope. And most important, the young people. So many young people today do not know their history. So many young people today do not feel the love, feel the hope, We need to let them know that they are special. They are the future. They are the fighters for us for tomorrow. We just paving the way so that they can keep up and we don't drop the ball like we dropped the ball before. We just got the right to vote in 1965 for Blacks and for women. And we have allowed that to walk away because we did not feel we got comfortable in our zone. And we cannot get comfortable. This is a daily work that we have to do every day, the same daily work that we have to do in our faith, in our belief in God. If God is who he is, it doesn't matter who's in that White House. All he wants us to do is to trust him and never give up and know what the power source come from. Because whatever happens is meant for our good. One thing that I understand in my struggles, when I'm at my weakest point, that's when I'm the strongest. When I'm at my strong point, I don't want to look back at them. I want to stay strong. But when I'm weak, that is when I'm more powerful. And we all have this inside of us. We just need to tap into it and never let go and never let hope go. Don't get depressed, rejoice, be happy. Because the deal is that what's up in that government is not my joy. My joy is in the community, in the people who I love, this country that I love, and the children that I love, and even the unborn, and the love for my ancestors of what they had done and what they have sacrificed in order for us to be where we are at today. We don't even have imagination. I go to the plantations where my ancestors were at. We have a day of remembrance. I want to remember what they've done because I don't want their death to be in vain. I don't want their work, their sacrifice, for them dying for us to have this here. We all think about Martin Luther King, but we forget about how they came over here and the struggle that they had. And where we sit at today, they couldn't even imagine that. So let's remember just how good God has been and the sacrifice they have made for us to be where we are at today. Never let go. Never let hope go. Know who you are and never let go. Never let God go. Because if you let go, they win. But if you don't let go, then we win. And we're going to win anyway because we are resilient people. We always have adversity. We always have to fight for what we have. We always have challenges. It just didn't start today. We was born with it. Let's get back to our roots. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gwen. That's powerful, and I hope we hold on to that. Never let go, never let hope go. Well, I want to just, again, make sure that we don't have any hands up. I see Patty has not come back. So what I would like to do at this time is just say thank you all for joining us today and for your engagement throughout the past 9 months of this Petrochemical Lunch and Learn series. It has truly been an incredible journey of learning, organizing, and strategizing to confront the threats of fossil fuels to our health and our environment. As you know, our session was guided by Dr. Patricia DeMarco, who has given us powerful insights. She has deepened our understanding of these issues and reinforced our shared commitment to action, as well as those who have taken the time to show up as Gwen and Women for a Healthy Environment and so many others who are part of this Lunch and Learn series. These Lunch and Learns have reached participants in 28 states and 3 countries, underscoring that this is a global issue. The petrochemical industry's impacts knows no boundaries, and we have to remember that. Whether in air pollution, water contamination, climate disruption, we're all affected. This also means we have a shared opportunity to build a global movement. This industry impacts us all, and together we can demand our collective right to breathe and to achieve racial, economic, social, environmental, and political equity. As Bell Hooks reminds us, and I love this quote from her, there is no love without justice. If we remain unable to imagine a world where love can be recognized as a unifying principle that can lead us to see and use power wisely, then we will remain wedded to a culture of domination that requires us to choose power over love. Let today be a reminder that our work is rooted in love, love for our communities, our planet, and the generations yet to come. This love calls us to power, not to dominate, but to liberate. I want to express my deepest gratitude to you, Ben, and the Ohio River Valley Institute for their collaboration and unwavering support, as well as to the funders who made this series possible. I also want to give a special thank you, to those of you who have attended, and because of your passion and your engagement, we have had enriched conversations. And to the Black staff for your dedication and hard work in making this series a success. Our call to action does not end here. Let's take the strategies, lessons, and successes we've shared today and carry them out into our communities. Whether it's amplifying awareness, building coalitions, or advocating for policies that protect our health and our environment, every effort counts. As Patty said, we have to come to the place and say, not fair, not right, and then close with not on our watch. We need to let them know we are watching. And how do we do this? We stay connected and we continue to work. If you would like to follow us, you can follow the Black Appalachian Coalition on our social media pages and website. You can stay informed about the Ohio River Valley Institute's initiatives and the reports that they've made. You can also go to Dr. DeMarco's webpage and see what books she's published and the work that she's been doing. And as we move forward, let us be guided by these words. Together, we can demand our collective right to breathe, heal, and prosper. Let's build the future story we envision, a story of justice, equity, and sustainability, remembering that there is hope in the darkness. And I want to thank you for your commitment, passion, and voice. And let's keep working together for a healthier, more just world. Never let go and never let go of your hope. You are what we need in this day and this time and this hour. And that is why you're here and you get to say, not on my watch. I thank you again for joining us. We will be sending out resources to you. We will be getting the toolkit out. Stay tuned for the 2025 cohort. And just all of the things that's coming forth. And again, if there's anything that you would like for us to share, any event that you have coming up, any ways that we can support, please reach out at helloblack@blackappalachiancoalition.org, and we will be happy to stand with you. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.